I have a nerdy question for you today.
As opposed to...
Excuse me. They're normally
I'm sorry.
hypotheticals. Thank you. Who's your favorite Batman and who's your favorite Bruce Wayne? And I'm talking in films only.
Right, okay. I'm going to say favorite Batman is Keaton. Mm-hmm. I would say Christian Bale is my favorite Bruce Wayne.
What?
Yeah.
That's funny. I think he's the least Bruce Wayne of Bruce Waynes.
Oh, I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I think he's like James Bond.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
I see
but
what you're saying.
what about you?
I'm gonna go Christian Bale, Bruce Wayne. I love his Bruce Wayne. I think like that American Psycho energy / that Tom Cruise aura. And then I'm gonna have to say Pattinson for Batman.
Oh, man.
In one movie, I really love
He's barely Batman in that.
I love that in that film, the Bruce Wayne persona is so being developed because Batman is so Batman to me.
Yeah.
So even when he's Bruce, that is him as Batman, just without the mask on. Like, I feel like that sense of like his authority and vengeance and the arc of him finding hope in that. Like, we don't meet Bruce Wayne yet. Like, every time he's on screen, he's Batman. He's just not in a cowl. I love that character.
Man, you may have convinced me because I do like him. But I think I'm going to go with Keaton, especially in The Flash. I thought he was the best part of that film. There are some scenes where he's really rocking his shit. Bruce Wayne is a tie for me between George Clooney.
Okay.
You know I love that film. And Ben Affleck.
I mean, a lot of respect to Ben Affleck.
I thought he was good. He was jacked. He was like super, I don't know, suave and debonair, and he always looks like he's lying. And
Ben Affleck or Bruce Wayne?
both. Okay. But like that's the whole thing, right? He's capping.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
In one of my favorite animation shows, Cape Crusader, that's the thing. Like Bruce Wayne is always lying and putting on this mask, and he has an interaction with Harley Quinn, who's a psychiatrist still, and she's like, "You're a liar," and she doesn't know why it is, but she can read that he's always lying, and I really like iterations where he's like that.
As much as I like a Dunkin' Donuts based Batman, we gotta acknowledge outside the movies, there's only one. Like, I mean, I love my voice actors, but Kevin Conroy. Like
Kevin
you
Conroy.
specified movie, but like Mask of the Phantasm is a movie.
Yeah. You're right.
Kevin
You're right. I'm always talking about animation.
I'm just
Kevin Conroy. Yeah, I'm a huge fan, and he's my introduction to Batman was the animated series, and you know, Batman and Robin. That was the first Batman I was old enough to like watch.
Right,
and to me, even now, I think it's one of the most Batman movies. Like people always talk like, you know, trash about it because it's campy, but Batman is campy, and you know, in the end, he goes up to Mr. Freeze and he lets him continue his research from jail. And he gives the cure to Mr. Freeze's wife, which is also very Batman.
I got a hotter take. I don't think we've ever had a bad Batman because I think that each run of comics is a different flavor, and that's why like having Alfred be the same for the first 4 movies and changing Batman, it's just a different artist taking over. I think they're all correct. It's just how you play the character. He's so broad, it's interpretation. We've never had a bad Batman.
Welcome to DC Studios Showcase. I'm nerd commentator Frankey Smith.
I'm entertainment journalist Tyler Coates.
I'm comic correspondent Coy Jandreau.
And in honor of Batman Day, which is September 20th, we are talking all things Batman. And also we're going to review and give our reactions to episode 3 and 4 of Peacemaker. And we have a very special guest. We have Troy Baker.
Speaking of Batman.
He's a voice actor who's played Joel in The Last of Us. He's played Batman, the Joker, Two-Face, and the Red Hood. He's also voiced Sam Drake in Uncharted 4 and Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle. And he's been nominated for a BAFTA 5 times. Insane.
Incredible.
Yeah. So let's get started. Let's talk about episode 3 before we get into it.
Well, before we spoil everything, if you haven't watched episode 3 and 4, go watch those first, then come back and join this combo.
Okay.
So first, we find out a big piece of information in a flashback about Harcourt and Rick Flag Jr. They were romantically involved, which we're going to have to dig into. But also in the current timeline, Chris goes on a date with Harcourt 2, and we see his peace bike for the first time in the Earth 2, is that what we're calling it? kind of.
Yeah, I mean, like Earth 2 is a very specific Earth in the comics. I don't know if this is going to be that.
Well, just the other
But,
one.
yeah.
The
Well,
other
the
one.
other Earth.
The other
Earth.
For
place,
now,
yeah.
unlabeled.
Also in that alternate reality, we hear about this group called the Sons of Liberty. They are planning a bombing that Chris violently stops. We also discovered that Judo Master, aka Rip Jagger, he's back. And Michael Rooker appears as Eagle Hunter Red Saint Wild. So we gotta talk about the flashback first.
Listen, I'm a messy bitch that lives for drama, but that's a little bit too much drama for me. Let me tell you. I think initially when I watched it, and we talked about this when I saw the premiere, in my head, this was a different dimension, right? This is a parallel universe.
The whole thing.
The entire
Yeah.
thing. So when we got that reveal, I immediately thought, what dimension was this? Is this why they were beefing? You know, why she didn't like Peacemaker?
I think it was.
And it really is, but then why she sleep with him? You killed my man? You know, I don't know.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
It is John Cena.
I know messier real life relationships. Like the world's a lot, and I love that kind of recontextualizes not just this season so far, but a whole everything. Like that recontextualizes the Suicide Squad. That recontextualizes the first season. Like it paints a new picture. Harcourt hating him is so much more deep now.
Do you think Rick Flag Sr. knows that they slept together?
Yeah, I think that adds. I think that gives Rick Flag Sr. an upper hand over
Over her,
Harcourt. And,
yeah.
like the way he can manipulate her to like do his bidding in a way.
And I think also, if I were him, I'm like, now it's beef forever for both of y'all. Because you know, like you had this connection to our son. And I think the Flags hold sex on like sacred ground.
I mean, they
You know
certainly
what I mean?
lead with it.
Yeah, they leave with their, what did you say earlier? They
As they leave with their flag.
Yes, both of them are
Right on through.
womanizers. But I think it's also, they feel connected, even though they sleep around. We saw it with Senior and the Princess. We saw it with Junior and Enchantress, who I think they mentioned.
They do mention, but I'm really curious if the leading with that is mutual. Because if you think about Harcourt, like the way she navigates the world is very like headstrong, forward, militaristic. Like Harcourt is so like mission based. I think that's her type.
Yeah.
And I think that would also kind of explain why there's any friction and attraction to Peacemaker, because that's kind of two sides of one coin. So I love adding this layer of like who she's after.
I think it also explains why she rejected him and why she was like, I can never do this.
Right.
Because she is thinking about her relationship with Rick Flag Jr. initially.
And Chris just assumes it's because of him. I mean, it is.
It is. It's definitely
But
because
not,
of him.
he doesn't know why.
Yeah, he doesn't know why, but I feel like he has an idea, right? Do you think he knows that they slept together?
Well, they were certainly coworkers. I mean, he knew that they probably had a relationship as
Yeah.
like colleagues.
I'm curious if rewatching the first season, we see like, you know, some of Jennifer's work, like kind of not like the
the
informed
subtext.
acting decisions because of that.
Or if she even knew about it as an actor.
I wonder how long James had that backstory planned and if he actually told Jennifer.
I bet it was like Sean Gunn, you know, with Creature Commandos, where
Yeah.
he knew about the way Weasel was going to be, like that origin, and then we were like, we assumed he was one thing and then he was another. This feels like a methodical planning.
It definitely feels planned, and it seems very on par for what James Gunn does, where he writes out these long stories. Season 2 of Peacemaker is so starkly different from season 1. And it's not just tonally different. There's not like one big mission it just feels like we're exploring these characters, and it's all fallout, which I think is very, very cool.
Economos really, I feel like, grows a lot in this episode.
What are your thoughts on Economos?
I mean, he's sort of a dummy. He's just a big dummy.
Okay.
And often useless. I feel like other people feel like that too. Like even the people he works with are just like, what are you good for?
Yeah.
But I mean, he's good for saving the day every now and then.
I think it's interesting that he's a hacker and he's been saving the day physically since season 1, right? And I was glad to hear that he got this job because he hacked into the CIA when he was 14. I was like, okay, so he is smart, because I thought he was dumb when he assigned that car to Chris's father the first season. But every time he saves the day with Eagly, in season 1, Judo Master, when he beats him with a crowbar, every time he steps up, it's physically. And I think that shows that he's pushing past his reservations because every time there's something going on, he seems like a coward and then he decides to be brave.
He's
to do
good
the
in a
right
pinch.
thing.
Like, I think once you put him in the corner, he's great. But like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust him until like the worst case scenario, which is
Yeah.
really interesting.
And he definitely saved the day, not just eagerly. I was like, man, I hope this guy doesn't shoot eagerly.
I was so worried about Eagly.
Right.
Like this,
Yeah.
I mean, James Gunn's good at making you care about an animal, and I was so worried about that other side of James Gunn where he kills someone you care about. Like I was
Yes.
so worried for Eagly, and still am. Like we got another few episodes. Like there's so much more, and now that we're so connected, I'm terrified.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about Sasha Bordeaux. Is she a metahuman?
I think that's now like the explanation / I'm curious how deep that goes because like in the comics, prosthetic versus like this seems to be a lot more power. I think I even said last episode of our show, like it feels more elevated. Now I'm curious like how far they go with Bordeaux. Like what level of power do we think she ends up with? Either way, like right-hand person at Argus, very close to Flag Senior. I'm curious about, he seems to have it out for metahumans. Like, how does that affect her?
Yeah.
Like, if you have someone that you're clearly entrusting and also thinking with your flag with, does that change when metahuman conversation?
Do you think they slept together?
There's so much beautiful tension.
Do you-
Also, Rick Flag's just handsome. I don't know.
Yeah, like is that tension between Rick Flag Sr. and
every
Sasha
woman
Bordeaux?
that-
Or is it just Frank Grillo? Why
Yeah.
would they
Frank
cast
Grillo.
him?
Like in the drawing, you draw Frank Grillo a certain way. You know what's happening. It's Frank.
You know what's happening.
Everybody watch Warrior. Frank Grillo.
Now, we also see a date between Harcourt 2 and Chris, who's stealing the life of Chris 2.
Classic rom-com trope.
A
but
classic
okay.
rom-com
So you're
trope.
not on board.
That I'm not on board with. Before then, we get to see Rick Flag Jr. in it, and he's a dweeb. I thought he was a dweeb in Suicide Squad.
No.
In both of them, yes.
Not that much of a
The- in
it
James
is
Gunn,
heightened.
in James Gunn, he was definitely less of a dweeb. In the first Suicide Squad, he was a dweeb. He was like, that's katana, you could take this. He was just doing dweeb-like things. And so when I saw him as a dweeb in this universe, I was like, that
tracks, yeah.
That definitely tracks. Like he's just, he's been raised on rules and being military.
See, I'm having a thing where I'm like, it is so perfect for Chris in this world. Like, I'm having that moment of like, they mentioned magic. And now they're also like having the guy he doesn't like but doesn't want to have killed is suddenly a little bit more of a dweeb. And this girl is like really in love with him. And like the world is sunshine
he's
and
a
rainbows. I'm like,
bitchin'
is he like
motorcycle.
enchanted? Like
Yeah.
everything's coming up Millhouse. Like I'm curious.
fair.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
fair.
I don't know. I have like this is it another dimension moment. Like or is he in a world that's made for him? Like what's happening?
That does feel true. I did notice that the terrorist group is called Sons of Liberty, which to me sounds like a racist,
Right-wing, yeah.
like right-wing group. And so maybe in this dream or parallel universe, we see Augie and Chris are the opposite of what we know, where they're not, these like right-wing, red dragons. They're now blue dragons, and like they're fight. But
And something that he would idolize. Like
So
I
I
still
think
think
he
it's
would-
all his perfect, and that's what I'm curious about.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, to your point, his dream would be, man, what if I wasn't the son of a racist? You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
if,
Yeah.
What if instead everyone idolized me and I fought terrorists
Right.
who didn't want inclusion?
And like
stuff
you said, the
that?
motorcycle, like everything's
Yeah.
just so specific to how we know he is. It feels like the music he likes, the place.
Right.
Yeah. Were you a little nervous when he scanned his eyes to go in? That would
No,
get
I
kinda-
was like, they're identical.
They're
Oh, I had a
Yeah.
moment of tension. I was like, what's the difference? Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's a brown eyes in this universe. I don't know.
Now, before we go over to the next episode, episode 4, let's see if we got.
Well, we
any-
got to talk about Michael Rooker first.
Oh yes,
Yes.
yes.
New
I'm sorry.
character.
New character.
First, let's talk. Yes.
Red Saint Wild. Is this a comic book
As
person?
far as I know, original character.
Okay.
There are characters that are like Native American. This name and this portrayal feel new to me.
Right,
And
yeah,
I'm like from my like looking into it after being like, am I forgetting someone? I can't find a parallel. I think he's new.
He's ridiculous.
White shaman.
There are those, but not this way.
Yeah, I mean, clearly a white guy kind of adopting a Native
Upset.
American persona and
I think it also
Culture.
shows like how hard it is to get a job as a person of color, even in your field.
Oh, yeah.
Because why does this white guy, the best eagle hunter, dressed as a Native American. It was weird, but I thought that it was well done because it reminded me of like Tropic Thunder, where they made fun of him culturally appropriating. They all have a visceral reaction to the way that he looks.
Yeah, like we're not supposed to think he's cool. No one thinks he's cool.
It's a laughing at, not with.
Yeah, he's a loser weirdo.
So do you think he's actually an eagle hunter?
I think he thinks he is.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's why I think
not,
we can laugh at, because it's
yeah,
like, what's going on, guys?
There's a delusion.
There's a delusion.
A really,
there.
really funny delusion.
I kept on watching like, who hired this man?
Yeah, what are your qualifications? What's your resume look like?
I was very surprised, but I was happy to see Judo Master.
He's back.
He's back. He was one of my favorite parts of the first season. I mean, I love Kung Fu. I love martial arts. So I was excited to see like really good fight scenes with him. I love that he has an oral fixation and always has flaming hot Cheetos.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Judo Master coming back, pull out your bingo cards.
Yes.
Because that is on there. One of two bingo points from this episode. I think I have this one. Yes, Judo Master
I
returns.
do have it.
And the other one, obviously, is Economos Saves the Day.
Wow. Okay.
Got one this week. All right.
I got two.
All right, well, let's move on to the next episode, episode 4. Tyler, let's hear those key beats.
All right, so again, with a flashback, as every episode, I hope you've noticed, begins with a flashback. We find out the origin of the QUC, which it's an alien artifact of some sort. Also in this episode, Economos saves the day and tips off Chris, who escapes with Eagly and takes the alien artifact with him. We also see Economos hacking the QUC door, and he saves Eagly, actually, from Red St. Wild killing him. Chris teams up with Adebayo and activates the portal at his grandfather's cabin, while Harcourt and Rick Flag Sr. agree to betray Chris in exchange for her coming back into Argus. At the end, like at that cabin, Argus and Judo Master closing in, there's a huge battle of enemies, allies, and then the dimensional forces that are ripping these dimensions apart.
It was a crazy episode, and one of my biggest notable moments for me was Chris and Leona going to Chris's grandfather's cabin and him opening up the portal and him warning Leona to run in advance. I don't know if you remember when they go into that headquarters and he attaches a grenade to a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
And he throws it. He doesn't tell her in time, and she gets hurt. And she yells at him about it. And I noticed that in this episode that he told her way before
he's looking out for her now.
Yeah, because they're
Growth.
better friends. He's a little bit of a better person, and I thought that was very endearing. I don't know why. I love their friendship out of every other relationship in this story, and I love watching how it grows and how he's being there for her.
Yeah.
Especially knowing what type of person Chris is, and Leona is a woman and different from him in every way. And they still find ways to connect, and I think that's very beautiful.
I like how selfless it is too. Like he's not self-serving at all. Like he's a fairly selfish character otherwise. So it's nice to see him be like just friends.
Yes. Well, something that's on par, I think, for a character though, is Augie finding the QUC and letting the world believe, or at least anyone who knows that he's had this, believe that he's this genius, and really he just found something.
And that surprised me because I remember wondering in the first season, like, nothing about this character screams mad scientist capable of this. And then, like, again, I wonder if this was something that was mapped out, that then we get to have this moment. Like, the reveal of that last episode is really emotional. This feels like contextual. So it's really cool to be like, oh, yeah, that makes way more sense that he stole something than made it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a moment where Leota is inquiring about that, like, how did your father make this? He's such a genius. And Chris is avoidant, right? He's kind of dodging those questions. So do you think he knows where it came from?
I think he has the same suspicions. Like he has the helmets and all that stuff, but I think part of him is like, there's no way my dad. I don't know if he knows, but I think he suspects.
Yeah.
All right, so we actually see Red St. Wild in action, and he seemed pretty competent. He almost killed Eagly.
Yeah.
Were you nervous?
I was only because James Gunn. Like I was because we love him, and that makes me nervous.
And James Gunn
Like,
is a psycho who loves to kill everything we love.
Look at Groot in Guardians 1. Like, I was so attached, and like, we had to regrow Groot. Like, I'm just so worried for Eagly.
That was Groot's child, actually.
Baby
so
Groot.
We never,
No, that's what I'm saying. Is like
no,
that,
baby Groot is not Groot.
That's what I'm saying. Groot died.
I thought it was
Groot
Groot
died.
Jr.
His Groot Jr.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, we lost Groot. Like, that's what's crazy. We regrew him in 2 and 3, so like he's capable of great trauma. So I'm worried about Eagly.
I was glad to see Economos step up because I was like, how good is this job, man? Like, go work for Google. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Your track record's great.
I understand Harcourt like crashing out and being like, fine, I'll team up with you.
Yeah.
Because for her, that's all she knows, right? That's the only thing she's connected
When she
to.
teams up with Flag. you
Yes,
mean, yeah.
exactly. But
Senior.
for Economos, I was like, dude, what's your deal? Like, Amanda Waller's at Meta telling her, like, you can't do this. Like, you can't work for Tesla. Like, there's so many other jobs he could be making probably more.
Probably.
And living a way more safe, luxurious lifestyle. But, maybe...
Unemployment's bad out there, Frankie. I think this is just a show
I feel like
about
for a
the
kid,
realities
I
of
feel
trying
like
to get
for
work.
a guy who broke into the CIA at 14, he's fine.
How many jobs are there?
But
that
he
require
probably
those
can't
things?
pass a background check.
Like how
What's
many
his
people?
background check?
Well, he...
Google does.
Yeah, Google does a background check.
No, I'm saying what would be bad in his background check?
He
then?
hacked into the CIA at 14?
He worked for a Black Ops team for.
Google and Facebook would love that. Are you
Explain
kidding
this
me?
gap in your
No,
resume.
really?
I was leading a Black Ops
Yeah,
team. Where people
all you
were
gotta do is
threatened with death.
all you gotta do is doll that up and be
Right.
like, I obviously worked for the government for a while, and they've forgiven me for that. It's no
Manager at
smoke.
Radio Shack. They're all gone. You can't prove I didn't work there.
Yeah. I'm going to have you work on my resume after this.
Yeah, I got you.
Zhuzh
I
it
was
up.
like, you just gotta zhuzh it up.
But also, like, I think, as I mentioned for episode 3, I think that, like, Rick Flag knows about Harcourt and Rick Flag Jr., which is why he can... He's spinning this idea that he's going to get her back into Argus. But I think he's just, like, manipulating her emotionally because she needs that, but also he's using the relationship as a wedge in between her and Chris.
I think he wants to control all of them. I think
Yeah.
Economos is also trapped in that environment because he's in his own way blacklisted. Like I
Yeah.
think they want Economos right there to keep a closer eye on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he could get a job somewhere else because they made it so that was the only option.
I like to think, because I mean, we don't really know, I like to think that this is what he wants. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of almost couldn't imagine just being, someone doing security at Meta.
He's
You know
also
what I mean?
protecting his friend in his own way. I think
In
there's
his own
also
way.
a part of him that he is spineless until he needs that spine, and I think he is still close to Chris. Like
Yeah.
he is still in his own way watching over him, and I think that's not accidental.
And he presses Harcourt about that
Yeah.
as well, right? Like, he's like, listen, for a job? And I'm like, sir.
I'm gonna give him a little credit.
What
I'm
did you
giving
do?
Economos a little credit. I'm gonna stand up for just enough. He's doing just enough.
Yeah, I'm pretty hard on Economos, and I really think it's
I mean,
so-
everybody is. Again, he's a dummy. He's kind of a big dummy.
He is a big dummy, but they're telling us he's not.
I know.
He's very smart.
I love that you mentioned, I think it was like, episode 3, that this is just a season of people kind of falling apart. I think it's a really cool way to change from like the action kinetic pace of season 1 into like the fallout, and then we don't know the direction it's going to take from here because everything's kind of like mystery, everything's really curious, but we love these characters enough we can invest into like, okay, why is he unemployed? Like these conversations are like, these characters are written deep enough that we're like curious about the minutia. And I
Yeah.
like that the show is letting that be a relevant thing. That's way more interesting than just like punching people. like I love comics because they're balanced, but a lot of times comics get like just punchy, and there's like we don't care about things. Like the punchland spice if you're invested.
We heard, or at least it was hinted, that Enchantress is in here. And now I think Red Saint Wild tapped into some magic with this whole Primeval thing. Do you think that that's real, the Primeval?
I think it's kind of like his whole thing, like real to him, totally. And,
Yeah.
like, whether or not that relates.
But he has that moment where he's looking for Eagly,
Yeah.
and it works. And I'm like, is this magic?
It's either fake it till you make it, or we're seeing rudiment. I think magic exists, and I think it's an interesting way to show that people can access it. I don't think he was necessarily magic until this point.
It's like an opiate high or
Like
something.
a delusion gets you to a point.
Yeah.
Like, because like magic's really interesting with like magicians and sorcerers versus people that can access magic, right? Like John Constantine accesses magic at a great cost, but he's not like a sorcerer like Dr. Fate. So
Yeah.
like Dr. Fate's gonna have a different like connection than Constantine. both are magic, but different levels. I think this dude like fell into magic. Like I think there's a brokenness that like happened at him,
Yeah.
and then he just rode with it.
I was like, I believed in episode 3 that he was capping and he wasn't good at his job. And I was like, he's actually pretty decent at it. But it could be that he opened his third eye when he hit that rock.
Yeah. But again, like nothing he did. It happened to him.
Yeah,
It
yeah. I feel like
happened
magic
to
happened
him.
at dude.
Yeah.
So speaking on that ideal world that we see Chris find himself in, talk to me about some movies or films that you feel like parallel that type of theme.
Well, I think I've said this already. Like, I don't buy it as a utopia. I
Yeah.
think that he sees it as, there's a shoe that's about to drop. So when I think of this, I'm thinking of like movies where people think their world is great, but then it turns out to be full of lies. So like Truman Show, for example, or even like Stepford Wives and Get Out, where like there's like someone's tricking you into basically a prison, you know, that seems really great on the surface, but underneath is actually terrible. Westworld, maybe, where it's like a simulation, you know, like you go in and like you have an experience and then you leave it, but like something could happen to you in that experience that like wrecks you.
Can I say that that shirt, the wardrobe that Chris 2 has, kind of tipped me off that this wasn't a utopia.
But that's what I'm curious about, is if it's magic and some like in magic there's a cost. What if someone has magicked him to make him think he's this perfect? What if it's the Matrix? What if they're using his body as a battery?
And they
Do you know what I
picked
mean? Like,
that shirt?
I'm just saying, like, the shirt might be a mislead, but like, what if he's in a world that he thinks is another dimension, but it's actually like some sort of like trickery, and it's like the Matrix where like things are using his body, but someone in magic is using him to like, you know, manipulate things.
Kind of WandaVision.
Kind of WandaVision.
Yeah. See, but I feel like the QUC and that flashback kind of suggests that this is another universe, right?
Right.
Because
I think that's totally still viable. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
but we just
I'm
don't
thinking
know
outside.
what if the universe is like. There's something wrong with it.
There's
Like,
something wrong with it. Okay.
Something wrong. Like something's gonna happen, right? I mean, come on.
I do
that's
think it's
fair.
another dimension overall. I'm throwing in my Hail Mary. This is
Yeah.
my tinfoil hat magic idea.
So we did have one bingo in this episode, which is that Economos saves the day, specifically with Eagly. So mark that down.
Things are looking good.
And
Halfway through the season. How we doing?
I am doing really well.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm
feel
doing
like
pretty good.
I've got two lines. Actually, 3 lines where four boxes are crossed out.
I have 10 boxes, no clear path to victory.
I have one line where I'm missing just one box.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
But before then, we do have Troy Baker in the studio. That's so exciting. As you know, he's a voice actor, and we know him from The Last of Us. He plays Joel. He's Sam Drake in Uncharted 4, and he's Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones and The Great Circle.
And he's Batman.
And he's Batman. And he's Joker.
Yeah. And he's Red Hood. And he's Two-Face.
Yeah.
I think he's going to know a thing or two.
And with that, let's kick it to our interview with Troy Baker. Well, let's start by introducing the audience to who we have reading our edition of
His
Super
work.
Sons. Troy Baker.
Nailed it. Can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
So my first big movie was this Western called Comanche Moon. Okay. And first day on set, I'm super nervous because I'm number 6 on the call sheet next to like Val Kilmer and Carl Urban and Steve Zahn, all these big names. And I show up and this PA walks up to me and they're just white-faced and they're just, there's a, Mr. Baker, there's a problem with your chair. And I said, I have a chair? And I was stoked. And she goes, they hand-painted all of the cast chairs with their names. And so she showed me mine, and mine was Tory Barker.
Oh.
That's not that funny. And so she's like, I'm so sorry, they're gonna get it fixed for you right away. I was like, absolutely not. You're gonna keep that. And so for 3 months, on the back of my chair said Tory Barker, just in case I ever started to feel a little bit like I was
Right.
I could remember that they misspelled my name on the
Well,
back of it.
right now you're a very accomplished voice actor. You're Joel in The Last of Us.
Go on.
You're Sam Drake
Go
in
on.
Okay.
Yes.
And you won recently the Gaming Awards, right? Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Yes, I mean that was okay. We're gonna jump straight into that. So, 1981, Harrison Ford dons the fedora for the first time in this brand new story, Indiana Jones. It's the first movie that I saw in the theater, and what I fell in love with it is, number one, I loved history. I discovered that I loved archaeology, and like something that's old and being able to touch something from the past, something that like we can have this coffee cup, and as he says in the movie, you bury it in the sand for 1,000 years, and suddenly it's priceless. And I think that there's something that's beautiful about that. And at 5 years old or whatever, I was able to capture that. And I never thought that you would fast forward, 40 years later, and a director would call me that I'd never worked with before, and he says, "I like you for this role." And oddly enough, I turned it down. I said, "Hey man, I appreciate it, but are they looking for Harrison Ford?" And he says, "They want 1981 Harrison Ford." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to give you two names. Call one of these two guys, and they're going to get you solved." He goes, "Thank you for that. I like you for this role." So I said, "Tell you what, I'll put myself on tape, and if you think it's good, send it on to the producers. But if it's not, then do us both a favor and just keep it between the two of us." And next thing I know, I'm on set, and I'm doing my best to do Harrison Ford, culminating in 3 years later, we're standing on the stage for the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's show. And we kick off the show, and all of a sudden, I'm there with Todd Howard, our executive producer, and he goes, "There's someone," I goes, "I think you did a great job as Indiana Jones, but there's someone else that we should probably consult." And the curtain gets lifted, and the Raiders March plays, and out walks Harrison Ford. And I tried with every fiber of my being to just play it off cool. But you know that laugh cry that you do? You're
Yeah.
I did that like 3 times. And he was so kind and so gracious. And that's, someone who obviously has been the custodian of that character for over 40 years. And I understand what that's like. I'm going to put this book back. I understand what that's like to have an iconic character be handed over to you. I'm skipping through so many.
No,
things. You're just like, and that's that card, and that's that card.
Speaking of iconic characters, we're celebrating Batman Day.
Yeah.
Do you see I was going to segue into it?
Yeah, that's totally
Did you
perfect.
see what I was
That's
gonna do?
what- It was
Beautiful.
the next step.
God.
And in my opinion, the best Batmen are great Jokers, and the best Jokers are great Batmen. And you're one of the few people I can
That's
talk to
funny.
about that experience.
Wow.
Because in my opinion, the psychology is all of the villains represent different iconography of what's broken in Bruce.
Sure.
And I love the schism of what's broken in Bruce is the direct inverse of what's broken in the Joker, like chaos and order, and what they both represent of passion, and they both have this drive. And I like looking at Keaton, he'd be a great Joker. Looking at Bale, there are so many people that I think mirror that, but you've actually gotten to be both. Do you agree with my thesis?
I fundamentally and philosophically, yes. The reason why I got to play, I would love to sit here and say that it was my talent or my beautiful position on the character. It was 100% a marketing thing. Gary Mariano, who, if anybody knows DC or Warner Brothers or has ever been to San Diego Comic-Con, you know King Gary. He's the guy in the gray hair and the Hawaiian shirt, and always holds an ice cream party on Saturday nights at San Diego Comic-Con. And he was like, "Hey, I got a great idea. What if we made you Batman and a Joker?" And I was like, that would be an amazing challenge as an actor. And all he's thinking is like, I only have to pay one actor. So I was like, I was fortunate enough to. I remember when I walked into the audition for the Joker, and of course, nobody that was auditioning for it knew who it was. We were just given, sides that said, I think it was Jack White was the name of the character. And I looked at it, and there was 3 different scenes. And I read through. You signed in, and then they handed you the sides, and they gave you a moment to prepare. And so I'm sitting there, and I go, okay, so do you guys like want a young Mark Hamill, or what are you going for? And they're like, well, what would make you believe that it's Mark Hamill? And I was like, because it's a source material. I was like, this is from the Dark Knight. This is from the animated series, and this right here that's the Tunnel of Love monologue from The Killing Joke. And they were like, we've been discovered. I was like, why are you being, the secrecy that they shroud these auditions in, it's like, if you want someone to give you their honest take on the character, you gotta trust. And that goes to today, like as either an actor or a director, I understand like leaks are a thing. But at the same time, the relationship has to be predicated on trust. So at that point, I'm like, well, I'm not going to get it, but I drove all the way down to Venice, so I might as well give it a shot. And like, what do you want to start with? And I said, I've always wanted to hear the Killing Joke monologue. Let's do that. Now, a little bit of history. The only job at that point that I had been fired from was on an anime called Full Metal Alchemist.
Brotherhood or regular?
So I was in both, but the one that I was fired from, that doesn't make me twitch at all, was a character called Greed. And I walk into the booth, and Mike McFarlane just cast me cold. He was like, I think you could do this character. Great. I walked into the booth, and the first cue was 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter. 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter. So I walk in, boop, 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 the 3 beeps of ADR. And I discovered I cannot do 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter.
Yeah.
I sounded like a dolphin having an asthma attack. And so after about an hour of us trying, Mike McFarlane leans into the mic and goes, why don't you step out of the booth, man? And that was it. So a little bit of trauma for Troy, realizing that the one thing that I can't do is laugh. Cut to auditioning for the Joker, and obviously one of the things you're gonna have to do is laugh. And so I gave it my all. It was the last thing that I was gonna have to do in the audition. I was like, might as well blow my voice out for this. And then they offered me the job. That was the second role that I had turned down, was the Joker. And Ames Kirchen, who was head of Warner Brothers Games at the time, or vice president of games at the time, brought me into his office and he goes, why are you scared? And I said, I'm afraid I'm gonna fail. He goes, oh, is that it? We're not gonna let it be bad. You need to trust us. So I walked in, and it was kind of like, we talked about The Princess Bride earlier. Me walking into the session for Arkham Origins as the Joker was kind of like that whole thing with good job, sleep well, Wesley, most likely to kill you in the morning. We knew, Roger and I both were like, they're gonna get Kevin and Mark. They're gonna replace us. We're just doing some glorified temp. But lo and behold, here we are, over 10 years later, and I got to play it.
Love it.
I'm full of stories, y'all.
I know, these are good stories.
They're fun stories.
Well, let's talk more about your relationship with Batman, because it's Batman Day. Who is your Batman, like the first one that you got introduced to?
Kevin.
Kevin.
Will always be.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say that, I watched 66 Batman, so Adam West was the first introduction. My first introduction to the character was as a kid with the graphic novels, and I was in a grocery store, wandered away from my parents, and it was a mini comic. I don't know if you remember these or not, but they weren't this size. They were like super, super small. And so I'm reading them, and it was an origin story, and I was blown away. I was like, does anyone heard about this 9-year-old kid? And it immediately spoke to me because one of the foundational things about Batman that I think is why it resonates with me, and I think why it's resonated with people for over 80 years, is because Bill Finger and Bob King both, I think, realized that we need tragedy in our life. We need it. We need adversity. And it's one of the things that with my son, I'm trying so hard to expose him to in a safe way. And it sometimes feels very counterproductive because I've got this thing that is so precious that I care so much about, but I know that I have to put him in danger. I know that I have to put him just this side of bad so that he can realize how strong he is and realize how capable he is. And what I think people, Batman is one of the coolest looking superheroes, but he's also, we flip the camera around, he is one of the most terrifying villains.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is, speaking to your point, the duality of the character is that, man, we are all, what the Joker says, we're all just one bad day away. And like you said, every other villain, I've never played, I said this and people thought it was a hot take or whatever, but I've never in my life played a villain. Never. If I play a villain, you should have cast somebody else because I'm doing a really bad job. I only play heroes. So when I'm playing the Joker, I'm playing the hero. I'm not playing a villain, because you might as well just slap a mustache and a black hat on me at that
twirl.
point. Right, and twirl away, baby. And we've had that. Like, Cesar Romero was playing the villain.
And literally had the mustache.
And he literally had the mustache to prove it. When I watched Burton's Batman, I was like, I can't believe they cast Michael Keaton as Batman. And wow, was he great. Because he showed us what just an offbeat Batman looked like. But I was watching Nicholson as the Joker. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, wow, Jack Nicholson makes a great Joker. But I wasn't watching the Joker. I was watching Nicholson as the Joker. Mm-hmm. But boy, I would come home every day after school, and at 3 o'clock, no matter if it was an episode that I had heard or not, I just wanted to hear the theme. And that Shirley Walker theme met with the Danny Elfman score. Still to this day, it's just it just gets me every time. And even if it was an episode that I'd seen before, it's something that I couldn't wait to revisit those stories, because I always felt like I was missing something. But Kevin, to this day, is the best Batman and Bruce.
And you're saying Kevin as in Kevin Conroy.
Kevin
I just
Conroy.
wanted to clarify.
Sorry for clarifying.
Just to clarify. Do you have an episode from the animated series that's your favorite?
I do. And when I met Kevin for the first time was when we were doing Arkham City, and I was brought in, Arkham Asylum, or Arkham City, I got to play Two-Face, but I also got to play Robin. And so I walk in. I was originally supposed to be just like some cop that whatever, and then our director was kind enough. She was like, I think would you mind also just trying this character Two-Face? I don't know if you know who Two-Face is. I was like, yeah, I know Two-Face. And again, growing up with the animated series, I just kind of always done what I'd heard from the show. And so that was my Two-Face, that was my Joker, that was my Batman. And I'm sitting there in the same studio. Kevin's on the other side, and I'm here, and he's got a massive script in front of him. I have like 2 pages. Robin's not a very loquacious character in that scene. And we're getting mics set up and everything, and Kevin's being very quiet and stoic. And I said, hey man, I hate to do this. And I fanboy on him in the middle of it, and he just looks up at me over his glasses. Yes? And I went, there's an episode of the animated series, I don't know if you remember it or not. He was just kind of like looking at me like, you can't believe you're doing this. And I said, you probably don't remember it, it's a Mad Hatter episode where Bruce Wayne wakes up and he's not Batman, and Batman's actually somebody else, and his parents are still alive. And I realize, and like the engineer's looking at me like, shut up. And Kevin just looks at me and he goes, Perchance to Dream's my favorite episode too. I was like, freaking out, squeeing. So yeah, I absolutely have my favorite episode, and Perchance to Dream would definitely be it.
I also love what you had to say about the trauma to get to a point of growth, because in my same weird idea of Joker, that's Robin to me, is like he never got a childhood, so he's putting a child in a position of having to grow through the adversity he was shielded from, and like each Robin represents a different version of the childhood he might have. And so like your portrayal of Robin, and as you said, like the lack of loquaciousness, that coming from trauma is why I like Nightwing so much, is like that overcoming. Has anything changed in your visual design of these characters, or even your narrative design after you've played them, where you found something in you or in the character from discovery as an actor that's changed how you read them?
Absolutely. I think that Arkham Asylum, the graphic novel, to me was a huge unlock. I fell away from reading comic books for a long time. I would travel with my dad to these small, podunk towns, and he was a salesman. And so I would go with him on these sales trips to like all around Texas and Louisiana. And he would go to his clients and do his thing, and he'd be like, here's $5, stay alive. And I would always find, you could always, in like these small towns in Texas, you could always count on a courthouse, a soda fountain, and a bookstore. And so I would go in and read as many of the comic books before the guy was like, hey kid, this isn't a library. We sell books, we don't loan them. And I would always Batman was always too expensive. It was always like $1 or 75 cents. But like, there were other comic books that would read, there were 25 cents or 50 cents. I sound old. And they were actual paper that you could read. And so I fell away from reading comic books, and then I happened to stumble back on it. I was like, I'll read a comic book again. And I picked up this one that was a Nightwing issue. And it was just, it started off, it was one of these beautiful things. It's kind of like what Frank Miller did, to where you're seeing this happen as two characters, or one character's talking over them. And so Nightwing is back in the Batcave, and he's talking to Alfred. And he said, he walks up to this Robin outfit, and he was like, he hasn't been the same since Jason. And I'm like, who is Jason? I had no idea what happened. And then finding out about that, like, what an incredible thing, where the first time ever a publisher is going to respond to public outcry and go, choose their fate, and they play the Roman emperor, thumbs up, thumbs down. And to me, it's like, people don't know what it is that they want. And we have to give it to them, and we have to let them wrestle with it. And we're not here to chase or sucker for the favor of the audience. We're here to present something to them that challenges them and goes, I hate them. Great, why? Same thing with The Last of Us, right? When we did, I'll never forget shooting that scene of I swear okay. And I was like, you're gonna end your game on those 3 words, I swear okay? Really? And he was like, yeah, he goes, man, people are gonna be pissed. And he goes, great, I hope so. I just don't want them to be ambivalent. And that to me is the mark of a great creator, is someone who goes, I am willing to have people go, I hate this. And if you love it, it's great. But if you hate it, I'm just as interested in that.
I want to get back to something you said about playing the Joker not as a villain. Yeah. And is that kind of how you approach character? Because I think that's an interesting thing about being an actor, is that you are sometimes playing terrible people, but you have to find the reason for their, why they're doing their thing, the things they're doing.
You can't judge a character.
Yeah, exactly. So is that how you kind of approach the Joker as not a villain? Is because you had to understand him first before judging him?
Yeah. And to me, the foundation of that is the Tunnel of Love monologue, because looking at what he says there, he's offering you a way out. Who's crazy? Look at how much hurt and pain. Trauma recognizes trauma, pain recognizes pain, and there's various different, fractured fascias of how much Joker knows about Batman and how much Batman knows about Joker. But I think that the one thing that's consistent across it is that he recognizes, like, you've got pain. And I don't know what it is, but I recognize it in you, and so do I. Let me tell you what I've dealt with, and how I've been able to rise above my pain and rise above my trauma. And that is, I just let go of any kind of rationale. Madness is the emergency exit. And so for me, if I judge the Joker and go, oh, he's a terrible, despicable human being, let somebody else play him. For me, it's like, the thing that I always loved about the Joker is you kind of want him to be your friend. You don't want to be on the wrong side of the devil.
Yeah, it's self-preservation. Yeah, it's like being friends with the Mean Girls.
Yeah. He's got henchmen for a reason. All those henchmen are like, Mr. J.
Yeah, because there's a fear, but there's also but he likes me. Right? He doesn't like you, but he likes me. And I think the one reason why, with the exception of Killing Joke, that Batman allows him to survive is because it's the same thing in this Arkham Asylum, where he takes the glass and he cuts his hand just so he can stay sane. He needs that counterweight, because as long as he's there, then I haven't gone off the deep end. And I grew up in a deeply, I will say, religious household. And it was the tool sets that my parents were given to them. They passed them on to my sister and I, especially growing up in the South. It was a common thing. And I don't regret them, nor do I, that upbringing. But I definitely have had to emancipate myself from it, because it imposed a system on me that no longer serves me. But I think that in a lot of ways, I would always go, hey, as long as I feel guilt, I'm okay.
Right.
I guess it's all right. That means that I haven't lost all my ethical bearings. And I think that Batman looks at Joker in the same way, as long as I'm doing this, as long as at the end of the day someone gets locked up on either Blackgate or Arkham, then I'm doing good, right? And I think that there's so many episodes and so many issues, have him standing in front of that picture of his parents going, I hope I made you proud, or standing in front of their grave marker and going, I hope I made you proud. And I think that regardless of whether or not we've ever found ourselves in a crime alley and somebody holding our parents up at gunpoint and the pearls go, cascading onto the floor, I think that what Bob Kane and Bill Finger originally figured out, and what every Jeff Loeb and everybody else has figured out along the way, is that they write to the audience who's reading this, and at the end of the day, there's always a 9-year-old who has experienced trauma, and it's like, yeah, I know what you want to do, but there's another option. In the same way the Joker says madness is the emergency exit, so is morality. You can take this, and this is what I love about comic books specifically, and what really every story that we've ever told since we first started gathering around campfires to tell a story, it's always about overcoming tragedy. A great director that I worked with, Tom Keegan, that directed me on Indiana Jones, said very offhandedly, goes, every video game is a story of loss. Whether you are, a grizzled survivor trying to replace their daughter, or you're a plumber who's lost a princess. Every video game is a story of loss. What has been lost, and how can I regain it?
I know we lose you in a minute, but I got to know, with your well-vested knowledge in the creative mindset of finding these characters and embodying them in a way that isn't judging them, but also in Batman, is there a story within the Batman rogues you'd love to tell or see told? Or because to me, like, you clearly have a way in, and I'd love to know how archetypal the character is, that everyone kind of has that story. Is there one you'd love to see?
Man, you put me on the spot. What a great... I think about all of the stories that have moved me that have been like, man, this is a seminal episode, or this is a seminal issue. I think that off the top of my head, thinking about taking that issue and showing what happened to Batman after failure with Jason, it's the aftermath of that. Death of the Family is like the iconic, issue, but it's like, you need to go a couple issues later. You need to show, because literally the one right after is the crazy one with Joker in the Middle East. Like all of a sudden it takes over the UN.
Time jump pivot.
Like, what happened with this? But
they were counting the phone calls.
Yeah, I was like,
in real time. They're like, did he die? What are we gonna do?
Gotta come up with something else. But if you look and that to me is such a great cross section, because you show three people that are grieving, and how each of them is grieving in a different way. One feels completely incompetent or incapable of handling it, and then Alfred, Nightwing, is dealing with the guilt, if I hadn't have left, and then Batman is just beating the crap out of everybody that he can find. I think that would be a great story to tell. But to be honest with you, like, far greater minds are going to come up with an idea more than me, because these are the stories that continue to move me, that continue to resonate with me. And what I love now is I got a 7-year-old who is now being able to experience those stories, and teaching him the tenements of why Batman has survived as long as it has, and why he's my favorite. My best friend, Travis Willingham, we have the best kind of like, we will have long arguments about who's better, Batman or Superman. He's played Superman more times than anybody. And both of us, the beauty of it, and to me what makes it art, is that two people can look at the same thing and have two completely different perspectives. But when it comes down to it, he's going to look at John Williams' score for Dawn or Superman, and I'm going to look at, Danny Elfman's score from Batman, and we'll just play both ad nauseum until we go, which one was better?
And that brings us right back to Super Sons. And it all goes full circle.
So it actually is, and if you don't know, another beautiful stroke of genius that Gary Mariano had was Travis and I had just become fathers. And when they brought us this script, they said, hey, you both have played Batman or Superman. We think it's time for you guys to team up one more time and tell the stories of fathers. And so that was one of the best jobs that we've ever had. I think Travis is an amazing Superman. And especially in that one, he's incredible. So if you haven't watched that one, just know that's hitting. I think our sons are 2 months apart, and at that point, I think they were maybe a year and a half old when that came out. I only spiked the lens once in this entire That's kind of my thing, and I'm kind of proud that I only did it once. It has been an honor. Obviously, you guys see I have a passion for this character, and how far this extends beyond just the pages of a comic, but into video games, shows, and everything else. So thank you for letting me talk like a nerd.
We're supposed to thank you.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
All right, go on then.
Thank you
Go
for
on.
joining us. And before we go, please tell everyone where they can find you.
At my house.
Okay, just drop the
Don't
address.
come. Moat and cannon. I don't know. You can see me on Instagram, as I was supposed to say, official Troy Baker, or the Tiki Takis. I think is the same official Troy Baker. I don't know.
Are you on there? Are you dancing?
Never. You don't want to see me dance. It's really bad. It was either dance or be the one making the music, and I opted for the latter.
Okay.
Are you still like con circuit, still that same like joie de vivre? Like I know that's something we both.
It is. I will stay with you a little bit longer to tell this story. So I'm great in groups. I'm terrible one-on-one, and so it's one of the reasons why I do conventions is because a friend of mine told me a long time ago the epitome of arrogance, or modesty, is the epitome of arrogance, and he said the ability for you just to accept a compliment is a struggle for the ego. And because it's allowing someone else's opinion to be higher than yours. And that means even if they go, hey, I hated what you did, which is very rare that someone stands in line for 45 minutes and go, you suck. I'm like, I get it. Sign something for you? But it's also a really good opportunity, like, Neil Druckmann or some of the people at other studios I work with, they don't go out to conventions. And so for me to be able to, people tell me some really incredible stories. And for me to be able to pass those on to other people and go, hey, you got to hear this story about this person in Orlando, what they shared about how much this story has meant to them. So, yeah, you'll find me. I think I'm doing New Orleans Comic Con, Fan Expo, Boston. I'll be at New York Comic Con this year. So it's been a while since I've been back to New York Comic Con.
I'll be there.
Will you?
Yeah, I
Okay,
go
let's
every
hang.
year. I've been going since I think it started. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm
Went back when it was in February and it was super
yeah,
cold.
so like I'm the product of like what your son will be in like 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, well, more than 20 years. But but yes, like my
Second
father
generation nerd.
was like super nerdy and really into Batman and stuff
man.
like that. Yeah, so yeah, maybe he'll be on the DC Studio
next round of DC
Showcase.
Studio Showcase
Season
generation.
40.
Yeah.
He's got to be proud of you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's like, wait, don't give me a bunch. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It really is.
I can tell you from personal experience. Yeah, you've never had to do anything to win your father's pride. Okay, that was given to you the day you were born.
Oh, that's so
beautiful,
sweet. Oh my gosh, I was like, that's very sweet. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us
pleasure,
and
guys.
Thank you.
sharing your insight on Batman Day. I felt like I was talking directly to Batman.
I love his reverence and his appreciation, but also inside the cowl.
Yeah, he's a very cool guy. And it's still Batman Day, right? So let's take a second to go through our DC Studio Showcase Spotlight. Tyler, what do you have?
Want me to start? I'm going to go with, I mentioned it earlier, The Truman Show. I think it's a great, like, when you're questioning your reality, if it's real or if it's a simulation. And the first, like, real dramatic performance from Jim Carrey.
Okay, yeah, I love it.
Mine's gonna be long. Do you want to go first? I got some stuff. It's Batman Day.
It is Batman Day, so I'm gonna let you go. I was gonna do comments too, so I'm gonna do two because you're gonna do a bunch. First, I'll do Batman Cape Crusader. It's an animated television series. I quoted it earlier, and I absolutely love it. It's so good, and it reminds me of Absolute Batman,
Yes.
which is written by Scott Snyder. And right now, it feels like a rap battle between him and Jonathan Hickman, who's writing Ultimate Spider-Man. And it is some of the best Batman I've ever read, and it's some of the best Spider-Man I've ever read. So every week, they're just battling it out. It's just like, Scott Snyder's like, oh yeah, look at this. This is Batman. And Jonathan Hickman is like, I got a 34-year-old Spider-Man. What are we doing? And
Charts.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is honestly like the first 3 days of the Kendrick and Drake beef without actual beef. And it's what comics are for. I absolutely love it.
If they were both as talented as Kendrick. And in honor of the upcoming Batman Day, I've got a bunch of comic recommendations for you. As your comic correspondent, I want to recommend in rough chronological order, there's some key Bat moments. Batman Year One from Frank Miller and artist David Mazzucchelli is one of the most formative, instrumental, and important Batman runs, and it's only 4 issues, very accessible. I would say Batman Court of Owls from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo is another great jumping on point that actually adds context to Batman lore by doing a like pre-origin story that adds context but is also very approachable. I would say Tom King's War of Jokes and Riddles, written by Tom King, illustrated by Michael Hanine, is so very, very action-packed and tense, and it really gives you a sense of all of these different villains in a way that is in a new context but also very approachable. If you want a very big villain-heavy book, go Batman Hush, Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee, friend of the show. One of the best, greatest hits kinds of runs. Feels like you're listening like Now That's What I Call Batman. Every villain you know and love kind of going through a process of detective work. Really great stuff. And if you want something modern, I'd say Batman Dark Patterns. Current book outside of Absolute Batman that is very approachable. Only a 12-issue maxi series that gets to the detective side of Batman in a really interesting way, recontextualizes villains very well, is a David Fincher-esque tone, very gritty, very dark, very pulpy. And if you want an Elseworld, Batman Gotham by Gaslight is a really cool Mike Mignola illustrated run that has Brian Augustyn writing it that really feels like you get to know the Batman archetype outside of what you might be familiar with, making it very approachable. And if you want to check out some Batman stories told into a radio play, we are doing word-for-word recreations of Batman Year One, Batman Long Halloween, and many more stories over on DC High Volume, a show I host interviews for. You can check it out on DC's YouTube, and it is bat-tastic in honor of Batman Day.
I'm surprised you didn't say Death in the Family, which we were talking about during our interview. And I'm not sure if you picked up, but people voted to kill that child.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
And did you vote?
No, I just remember talking about it.
I was like, Tyler, were you there?
You know what's interesting is Jim Starlin, iconic writer of both Marvel and DC, right? I love that he's known for Thanos, which is a 50-50 chance, and the 50-50 chance of Robin living.
Huh?
Like, it's kind of cool that a yes-no is the two things this guy is literally this as a human being, but Robin didn't make it. Sorry, Robin.
Sorry. Well, with that, that's our show for today. You can watch new episodes of DC Studios Showcase every other Friday on HBO Max, HBO Max's YouTube, or you can watch us on Spotify. You can also listen to us anywhere podcasts are available. And don't forget to tune in to Peacemaker, the official podcast with James Gunn, Jennifer Holland, and Steve Agee. They get into the nitty-gritty of every episode, even more than we do, which is really cool.
They were there.
Yeah, they were there.
This was an OBB sound production from HBO Max and DC Studios, hosted by Frankey Smith, Tyler Coates, and myself, Coy Jandreau. Executive producers for DC Studios, Phil Soponides, Gary Barbosa. Executive producers for DC are Mike Pilata and Victor Diaz. Executive producer for HBO Max is Becky Rowe. Producer for HBO Max is Aaron Kelly. Executive producers for OBB are Michael D. Ratner, Scott Ratner, and Toby Lawless. Production manager, Kevin Lynn. Studio coordinator, Elijah Matias. Director of photography, Heath Gresham. First assistant camera, Chris Piper. Camera operator, Ben Cohen. Gaffer, Arthur Garcia. Key grip, Sam Satoski. Sound mixer and editor, Josh Falcon. Sound mixer, Darren Bowling. Composer, Ethan Walter of The Ringers. Hair and makeup artist, Kendall Shannon. Host coaching, Lisa Linky. Associate producer, Tess Bartholomew. Production assistant, Antonio Cavallo. Post-production supervisor, Mariana Chrysostamo. Assistant editor, Mark Alcacid. Editor, Adam Grabarnik. Director of Creative Development and Social Strategy, Lenore Castro. Senior Coordinator, Creative Development and Social Strategy, Sharif Bakari. Special thanks, OBB intern Kira Hochberg, OBB intern Amaya Machni, DC intern Ava Escada, associate producer Chris Stith.